Jim Bergman with the Manifold Group. Wanted to show you some new features of the application. We've made some pretty significant updates, starting with the way the iManifold app looks, the icon looks. If you look at the lower lower right-hand corner of my screen, you'll see the iManifold application. We've got a little silhouette there of our iManifold. We'll go ahead and tap that, and you'll notice we've also revised the intro screen on there. Can't overstress the importance of making sure your application's up to date. So if you go into Help and you go into About This App, you'll see that we are on Jaguar, the version of the application. This is actually the 58th or so update to the app. And under the screen, it'll tell you some things about what's new in Jaguar, including some new reporting, some new mechanical checklist updates, some screenshots are changed, simplified projects and reporting, and a lot of other core updates in the application. But this video is specifically about Jaguar and the updates we've done to that. So you need to make sure that your app is updated and you're good to go. So if we take a look at the iManifold app, I think the most important thing to understand is everything in this application is built around doing a project. Obviously, you can use this as a service tool, but the concept behind using the core features of the iManifold is to communicate data to your customers, to your office, to generate reports, get them to utility, anybody that needs that data to do their job. So we do a project here. I mean, we always talk about cloud and how important that is, but this is, again, if we used the cloud to use a project, and we did a search, it's going out to like a 2,000 square foot perimeter. I'm going to go ahead and select our training unit. The key thing here is it pulls in all the information about that unit. It pulls in our rated airflows, our rated capacities, information about our condensers, model numbers, serial numbers, and probably the most important thing to hear at the bottom is that profile. It's telling us the exact design temperature differences of the evaporator, the design temperature difference of the evaporator and condenser, target superheats, target subcoolings, all those things, so that we can get started with the project right away. We tell the iManifold what we're here to do, maybe the preventative maintenance, and we hit submit, and it pulls up a simplified workflow. Now, we have added some things to the reports, so even on old cloud customers, you will have to update your customer information. And we're just going to hit edit here for utility, and we're going to geotag that address again. And when you geotag the address, it's obviously going to pull up where we're at. So this is the address of our office. I hit use this address. You'll notice what it does here is it pulls in our climate zone, and it pulls in our estimated electrical rate and hours of operation for our climate zone. So if you were to look at the, I believe AHRI published it, maybe it's ASHRAE published it, there's an annual estimated number of hours that equipment will operate based on each climate zone. And so when we know our electrical rate and we know our climate zone, we can tell the customer a lot about how that is supposed to operate. So we hit submit there. Now that data is stored. If you want to edit that, if you know your exact electrical rate for your area, or if you get a special rate, you can do that. If you're on a commercial job where your annual run hours are different, you can also edit those. So in our case here, if we're in an office building that's occupied 1,200 hours per year, I can go ahead and just edit that information, and know that it's going to do all the calculation based on the 1,200 run hours versus the 800 run hours. So now I'll go ahead and hit back here, and again, I'll sync this data with the cloud, so now it's stored, so I don't have to pull that back down again. Now, when we're done with a tab like this, we can always close the tab up and get it out of the way, and then I'll go into my testing and performance. So we've really tried to simplify testing and performance to make it really easy for you to navigate through the application and get the stuff that you need. Again, you'll notice there's some I buttons like next to report and measurements here, and if I tap that, it'll tell you about the capture to test in, capture test out measurements, which I'm going to go over now. The I buttons next to the red bars there will tell you that there's no capture of data, and I'll show you how that works in just a minute. So when we go to the view measurement screen, this takes us right into the measurements where we can hand enter things. And I'm just going to go ahead here and put in our demo data just so we have some data to work with, and hit submit. And now all that's pre-populated. If we go back in there, you'll see that all these fields are pre-populated. and it makes it really easy to go forward and backwards in the app. We can also obviously go to the manifold, look at things on the manifold, scroll through our bottom bar and see how things are operating. We can go back in that project and we can view performance right from the project. So we can see how the system's operating, that it's operating at capacity, deviation from target temperature split, all those things. After we're satisfied it's working the way that we expect it to work. And in this case here, let me just so we can show you some of these other tests here. I'm going to go ahead and change some electrical data real quick. I'm going to run these amps up to let's say 20 amps, like we have a dirty condenser. Maybe it's plugged solid with cottonwood up here, and I just want to submit this data that way. So I'm going to capture my measurements in. So when I hit capture measure in, obviously it goes green. If I hit that info button, it's going to give me a date and timestamp of the capture. And so now I'm going to go back to measurements again, and I'm just going to re-input the same data, hit confirm. And now if I go back into those measurements, you'll see that that's amp draws where I had them at 20. They're at the current standard values we use that are 10. So I hit submit here. Now I'm going to capture this as my measurements out. So the only difference really in these two sets of readings is higher amperage, but it'll give us what we need for the reports. And again, you can see it's date and time stamped. The first one was captured at 8:18, and the one prior to that was captured at 8:18 also, so less than a minute there. So now I'm going to go into my reports and checklists. So we've added some pretty cool new reports. Obviously the iManifold report is always free. We have now our cloud service. It's an all-in, so if you subscribe to the cloud service, it's about $15 a month. It's going to give you all the reports on there, and you can at that point, get your iManifold Pro reports, equipment replacement reports, annualized savings reports, checklists, charge and airflow, Energy Star, all those things. So let's look at an annualized savings report just to see how that might fare for our customer here. So I'm going to click on annualized savings, and I'm going to generate the report. So what this just did for us here and is basically it shows us before and after. So our EER before, because we had the high amp draw, was about 3.22, and after it's about 5. And again, this is just demo data, so take it with a grain of salt here. But what this does here is it calculates our energy consumption, our capacities, our annual operating hours, our annual cost of operation, and then shows us what the savings would be. So it's a great way to justify to your customer how much money you're going to save on each one of the reports. And each one of these reports, we have different videos on them, but you can get an idea here of how that workflow makes it conducive to do that. So that's one really cool section. Now the other thing I wanted to draw your attention to, again in the projects, is on the add mechanical checklist. So we've done a lot of work in this section, and we're continuing to update it here, but one thing to take note of is that next to each one of the items, initial setting, level, battery voltage, is an information button. If you tap on that I button, it's going to tell you some information about why would you want to check initial setting on a thermostat. In this case, settings below 74 may be an indication the blower speed is too high or the refrigerant charge is incorrect, leading to poor relative humidity control. Verify the airflow is not excessive. Ensure proper dehumidification and the refrigerant charge within the manufacturer's spec. Typically, if you design a system well and the humidity is controlled properly, customer shouldn't have to set the thermostat below 74 degrees. It's an indicator. When they have it set at 70, we call that cold and clammy. Usually it's because they're not comfortable. The room's not dehumidified. If you ever traveled out to Arizona, you know that you can keep your house at 80 because the humidity is 40%. So these walk you through, well, why does the thermostat hole wire need to be plugged? Hole through the wall should be routed, should be plugged to prevent hot and cold air from leaking inside the thermostat and influencing the operation. So there's information on each one of these tests and why you do it. Now there's also some cool stuff here, like if we select we have a standard filter, we now have the ability to input quantities of filters in here. And then we also, there's some diagnostics built in here. So let's say that we enter a static pressure drop of 0.2 across our filter, and we'll go ahead and go to the next field. You'll notice that it'll give you a warning that it's out of range. Please see the button information. So again, if we tap on that I button here, it's going to tell us that the static pressure drop across the filter should not exceed 20% of the rated external static pressure. So this is a 1/2 inch total external static pressure rating, so it should not exceed 0.1 inches, and we're at 0.2. So if we were to change this to let's say 0.07, less than an inch, and go to the next field, it's going to go green, right? And this just changed because I bumped it again here. Now, also, we're doing some cool things like if you get into your capacitor readings, and let's say your rated is at, we'll just say rated is at 3 and your actual is at 2. When you go to the next field, it's going to tell you the capacitor is out of range. So if we, again, hit the I button here, it's going to tell you the capacitor should be read within 6% of its rated capacity, and falling outside of that, it should be replaced to prevent premature motor failure. So these all walk you through talking points for your customer. But more than anything, what they do is they'll catch things that you may record that you might potentially overlook. So when you're filling out our check sheets now, you don't have to worry about inadvertently missing something. And we're doing this throughout the entire application. If we go back in here and let's say we do this with a furnace, now we've got 2-stage or variable. Even down here we've added combustion gas analysis. And so there's different things here we're tying in, and these will be expanded out as we go further and further along the path here. But we've got a lot of this stuff done, and we'd really appreciate some feedback on there. But this gives you an idea of some of the really cool things we've added in. There's a lot more to come, but I just want to take a couple minutes and review some of this stuff today and just show you what's new in Jaguar. If you haven't had a chance to try Cloud out, give it a shot. It's free for 30 days. You can play with it, see if you like it. You got all the great features, including Tech Connect, and it'll really change the way that you do your work. This is Jim Bergman for the iManifold Group. Thanks a lot for watching.